So let's say you're in a small home office space such as this. What would be the best of these two lenses, right? So we've got these two lenses here, which are the Sigma 18-35 and the Sigma 24mm f1.4. Which of these two lenses would give you the most blurry background separation in an office space that's generally kind of small? So here, and right now I'm about arm's length away from the camera. Let's say I was a little bit more than that. Let's say you wanted some more space. And now I am about like 5 feet away, maybe 6 feet. Yeah, this is about 6 feet away from the camera. Let me just tilt this down just a little bit to get the appropriate composition, right? So let's say I'm about 6 feet away from the camera and I got another, I literally have at this distance, I have maybe another, from my arm, that's like 2.5 feet. So maybe another 5 feet. I'm about equidistant right now. The camera and the wall is about the same distance between me and the camera. Which of these two lenses would allow me to separate the background the most? That's what this video is all about. So Dangerous Conversations posted a comment on the top 5 lenses for all budgets, Sigma versus Tokina versus Canon. So basically, I'm going to just read you his comment. So with relation to these two lenses that I showcased on that video, he's saying, now I see my problem. I can't have both of these lenses. I do not want to be up close to the camera like I was showcasing before. But at the same time, I want to have that blurry background. So because when you get closer to the camera, the background gets blurrier. But the moment I pull back a little bit to get like a decent head and shoulder shot, boom, the background's in focus. My home office desk where the camera will be placed is more than an arm's distance away. So something similar to this, right? This is I'm at arm's length here, and then the camera is probably another 2. So 1 handspan, 2 handspans, so about 2.5 handspans plus an arm's length from me and the camera. It's around 4 to 5 feet away, so that would be closer. This is probably like maybe 4 or 5 feet away. If I were to position myself right in the middle between the wall and the camera itself. But I really don't want my apartment to be so clear in the background. I hear you. Especially in my case, right? If I had this angle, I wouldn't necessarily want my entire glassboard and my calendar to be visible for the whole world to see. I like to show my head to my waist or midsection, and I want a zoom lens. So basically head to midsection. So this kind of composition, which is actually, it's called, this is like a medium shot essentially. I think you helped clear up my confusion. What's more important to me now is not being so close up to the camera while obviously having some sort of blurry background. What do you think? Maybe 10 to 20mm f2.8 or lower. For the sake of maintaining autofocus, I'm going to compare, I'm going to be comparing for this video. So first, let's start with the one that you mentioned. So 10 to 20 f2.8, just to kind of give you an idea in this sort of space and distance, how much background separation you actually get. So let's start with the Tokina 11 to 16. Now, depending on whether you are a Canon user or a Sony user, there are equivalent lenses to this focal length. So this here is a Tokina 11 to 16mm f2.8. It is an ultra wide zoom lens. If you're on a full frame camera or full frame body, what you may want to consider is something closer to a 16 to 35 f2.8 lens if you're on full frame. That's going to give you some background separation and that wide angle view. However, if you're on a crop sensor camera, obviously you're going to want to look for an 11 to 16 or 11 to 20 or 10 to 20. On Canon, the 11 to 16 from Tokina or 11 to 20 on Tokina f2.8 is a good option. If you're on Sony, the Tamron 11 to 20mm f2.8 is a good alternative. So let's go ahead and put this on. All right, so here we go. This is the Tokina 11 to 16 f2.8 zoomed all the way out to 11mm. So this is the field of view that you're getting. Again, I'm that same distance away. I'm about 4 feet or 3 feet, 4 feet. This is about 4 feet away. You get a full headshot. Now, if I zoom into 16mm, boom, this is what you get. Now, at 16mm, being about 5 feet away from the computer, you get a full upper body shot. But the background, because it's also the same distance away, it's also another maybe not three, but maybe 4 feet away. I'll tell you exactly how many feet. This here is a yardstick, right? So from my head, that's 3 feet. And from my arm to the wall, this is about 5 feet right here. Same thing here. This is just over 5 feet, because my arm is about 2.5 feet, but I'm grabbing approximately a foot of the thing. So 2.5 feet plus another 2 feet. So this is about 5 feet away. 5 feet away. So this is the look that you'll get. This is how much background blur you're gonna get. Now, you can increase the background blur without doing anything except moving closer to the lens. So you still get that upper body shot, midsection and higher. And now the camera is focusing on you, but this is how much background blur that you get. Personally, I don't think it's a lot. Personally, I don't think it looks as beautified as it would look on a brighter lens. So let's go ahead and jump to the alternative, which is the Sigma 18-35. And here we are. This is the Sigma 18-35. Let me just actually tilt this up a little bit. And I'm actually zoomed all the way out to 18 millimeters. So let me get that yardstick again. Dropped it. All right, here we go. Here's a yardstick. This is about 2.5 feet. Grab a foot off of that. Let me get the 12-foot mark. So 2.5 feet, boom. Add another 2 feet. So this is about 4.5 feet from me. Grab it at the 12-foot mark. And the wall, I'm still not touching the wall. So the wall is about 5 feet away. So this is about 4.5 feet away, 5 feet away. And this is the amount of blurriness that you get at 18 millimeters, f1.8. And the great thing about this particular lens, the Sigma 18-35, it works natively on Canon bodies as well as Sony bodies with the Sigma MC11 Canon MC11 EF to E mount Sony adapter. And so it'll work in both cases. I just wanted to showcase the quality of what this might get. Now, if I move in a little bit, right, you'll notice that it's blurring the background a little bit more. And keep in mind, even the room itself, it's not all that fancy, right? In terms of the setup, it's literally like any other office, except I got a standing desk. I'm being lit by my monitor and the window, which is actually all the blinds are closed. If I were to open the blinds, it gets like super bright. And so I just go ahead and close those blinds, and this is what I get. And just for a quick separation, just to demonstrate, I actually have my cell phone giving me just a little accent separator. So there's a simple thing, shoot into the other room. Again, I got close to 5 feet of distance here, 4.5 feet of distance here, half body shot. Now, cool thing is I can zoom in with this, right? So now, normally whenever I'm doing any streaming, this is the, let me just tilt this up a little bit. And this is the composition I like to go with. Basically the upper body, this is essentially a medium close-up, right? And so instead of having a full medium shot, right, where I'm basically at this point, now I can kind of come in a little bit tighter. And this is it gives me that kind of blurry background, and also zoom in a little bit. Now, if I want to maintain more blurry backgroundness, still having that distance, how much distance am I? So this is now 4.5 feet, right? 4.5 feet from me. And so this is the amount of background blur that you get. It's an upper body shot. Again, zooming back out to 18 mil, 4.5 feet. Zoom in all the way to 35 mil, and you get, like, even now, I'm actually really close to the wall, as you'll notice here. And you still get a decent blurry background. And this is stopped all the way down to f1.8. Now, again, you get the versatility of the zoom, which might be important to you. I think for a streaming personally, like, this is almost my go-to lens for any kind of streaming or recording at the desk or zooming at the desk scenario. Let's see here, there you go. Sometimes the contrast has to be so high, but now I got the focus is now on my face. But yeah, again, this lens works both with Sony and Canon mount adapters, but let's just, for the sake of understanding, let's also put the 24mm f 24mm f 1.4 lens. So let's go ahead. All right, so here we are. This is the 24mm f 1.4. Let me stop this thing all the way down to f 1.4 completely. So now we're at f 1.4, and let me also, there we go. So I try to make the brightness more equal to this because the 24 f1.4 is brighter than the Sigma 1835 f1.8. And so this is not a zoom lens. This is a prime lens, meaning I can't zoom with it. The way to zoom is to move the camera itself. Now, normally in this sort of setting, that is not an option. And so, but to kind of give you an idea of this sort of space, so let me just take the 1 foot mark. Whoops, I just hit the thing on the fan. All right, so again, this is 4.5 feet away. Just to kind of give you, again, 4.5 feet away. And then 1 foot mark is about 4.5 to 5 feet away. Now, I'm turning over here, but because I'm at an angle, I get a little bit more distance in that direction. So this is what you would get. Now you can tilt the camera a little bit. I'm gonna just tilt it down just so you can kind of get an idea of, there you go. So if you want this upper body shot where, again, 4.5 feet away, this is the composition that you'll get. Also, side note, if you're wondering why I'm wearing my bag, so that I have something to place my microphone on. So I don't run around with my bag normally like this. But yeah, so this is the composition that you get. Now you'll notice me being about 4.5 feet away from the lens. This is how much the background tends to be blurred. I'm looking at my, I'm looking at the monitor, the flip out screen on the camera. From what I can tell, at about 4.5 feet away, I think the text on the calendar and on the glass board is illegible, is blurred out. And it would be even more blurred out if I decide that I'm gonna move in a little bit closer. So these are your options in this sort of space. If you are on a full frame body or a Canon body, I'm not sure what kind of body you're on, but if you're on a full frame body or a Canon body, the good thing about the 24mm f1.4 is that you can get a wider field of view using something such as a focal reducer. Now, you can get a focal reducer from Viltrox or Metabones for Sony, but you're not gonna get reliable autofocus. So I'm just gonna go ahead and, now the focal reducer, what it is that there's a glass element in here that focuses the light from a full frame because it gives you full frame coverage, but I'm mounting in a crop sensor camera. So this is what it would look like. Same lens with a focal reducer on a crop sensor body. Boom. All right, here you go. Same lens, 24mm f1.4, using a focal reducer with a crop sensor body. This is the field of view that you'll get. Again, at 4.5 feet away, you get generally you get a wider field of view because this is what the 24mm is supposed to look like if it's on a larger format sensor. Let me actually make an adjustment because image is a little crooked. Here we go. Boom. And I can even come in closer and have that wider lens, but now I'm about arm's length away. If I tilt, or actually rather drop this down a little bit, make it a little bit lower, and this way even more lower, because the further I step away on a wide angle lens, the greater headspace I'm going to end up with. Even now, let's lower this a little bit more, and boom, there you go. This should be enough. So if I step away, now I'm properly framed up in the camera. The lines are seemingly more or less straight. And this is what you get. Now, what happens? Now, again, just a reminder, this lens will work on both Sony and Canon natively, in the sense of like if you have the MC11 from Sigma and you mount it on a Sony body, autofocus, all that stuff is going to be good. Same thing with Canon. If you have any Canon camera, whether it's RF, EF, or EFM, with EF it's native. With EFM and RF, you're gonna just need the appropriate adapter so you can connect with it, and autofocus, all that stuff is gonna work perfectly, as I understand. I've been using it on the Canon, which is an EFM mount, with an adapter and has worked flawlessly. If you want to get the full field of view on a crop sensor body using a Canon, then get yourself a focal reducer from Viltrox or Metabones, and you'll get this autofocus. I recommend Viltrox because it's cheaper and it works just fine. Now, what happens if I were to mount the Sigma 18-35 on this using a focal reducer? This is what it looks like. And here you go. This is what it looks like. Now I'm on the Sigma 18-35. Now you'll notice there's this vignetting here, right? There's a vignetting here because this lens itself is not designed for full sensor coverage with regards to full frame cameras. And so this is simulating what it would be like on a full frame camera. But if I zoom in a little bit at around, so what's the focal length here? This is literally at 24 millimeters. Almost all of the vignetting goes away. And so if you're using this on a full frame body, then this is what it would look like at 24. And this is at 35 millimeters. And now I'm like, I can almost touch the wall here, and I'm a good distance away. Now, if I wanted to use this on a full frame body, the Sigma 18-35, a lot of full frame bodies also have a crop mode. So everything that I showcased to you before would match what I had shown. But if you use it in full frame mode, this is essentially what it would look like on a full frame body. You get at 35 millimeters. Again, this is how much blur that you get. The tighter the focal length, the more blurry the background. You just need to make sure that you have the appropriate amount of distance between you, the subject or the talent, and the camera in relation to the background itself. I hope that makes sense. And then again, you can always move a little bit closer, but you don't want a tight shot. Great thing about the Sigma 18-35 is you can zoom out. You can zoom out to nearly 24 millimeters. And still be good distance away. You got the full upper body shot. You want something a little bit more. I'm getting on my tippy toes because it gets I lose that head to fill that headspace, but you can always adjust the camera. This is what you get. I hope this helps clarify which lens is for you. Personally, I would suggest getting the Sigma 18-35 because almost every full frame camera has a crop mode that you can effectively use this on, and it works natively on both Sony and Canon, given that you've got the appropriate mount adapter. Again, review. My recommendation is this one, the Sigma 18-35. If you have Sony, get the MC11. If you have a Canon body, if it's an EF mount, boom, you're good to go. If you have an EFM mount, get the Viltrox. Just regular pass-through adapter. You don't even have to. This is what I mean by pass-through, right? There's a hole. There's no glass element. But if you want that wider field of view, I would say get the pass-through as well as the glass-mounted adapter that I have on here right now. So I hope that helps. I hope that clarifies whatever questions that you might have had. A lens like this is definitely a must-have for anybody that's doing any kind of recording in their office or desk or Zooming or live streaming, or even generally. I love this lens on my cameras, just even for regular photos, especially for the family. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I'll see you soon.